Officials in China have begun load testing what will become the world's tallest bridge.
This is the highest bridge on Earth. Suspended 625 meters above China's Huajiang Canyon, it rises higher than the roof of the nation's tallest skyscraper. To build it, engineers battled unstable mountains, violent winds, and extreme altitude.
Welcome to Guizhou and this man-made marvel, Huajiang Canyon Bridge.
Racing against time to open it earlier this year. But this bridge isn't remarkable just because of how high it stands. Hidden within its structure is some of the most advanced bridge engineering ever attempted, technology designed to survive forces that would tear ordinary bridges apart. And once you understand how it was built, this height won't be the most unbelievable part. The Guizhou problem. There's a reason locals in Guizhou say there's no 3 feet of level ground. More than 90% of the province, home to the Huajiang Canyon Bridge, is mountains and steep hills. It's breathtakingly beautiful. Often called the Switzerland of China, Guizhou is globally recognized for its dramatic landscapes and rich cultural heritage. But beauty came with a cost. For centuries, this terrain made the region one of the most difficult places in China to reach. Guizhou was effectively an island, cut off by geography. Getting in was hard, moving around was even harder. That isolation is exactly why China has poured billions of dollars into connecting the province to the rest of the country and the world. The transformation began in the late 1990s with the opening of Guiyang Longdongbao International Airport. Today, high-speed rail lines and expressways carve through terrain once thought impassable. But the mountain mission didn't stop there. To make movement possible across this landscape, Guizhou is now home to an astonishing 32,000 bridges, each one designed to punch a direct route through extreme geography. And earlier this year, the most ambitious of them all opened to traffic: Huajiang Bridge. Take a boat along the Beipon River, and the scale becomes impossible to ignore. The bridge stretches across the Huajiang Canyon, soaring hundreds of meters above the valley floor. Before it existed, crossing this gap meant navigating twisting mountain roads for up to 2 hours. Today, the same journey takes just 2 minutes. Huajiang Bridge is a critical link in the Guizhou S57, a 150-kilometer expressway that slices directly through the heart of the mountains. Literally, engineers didn't go around the terrain, they cut through it. Using controlled explosives and massive drilling equipment, entire sections of mountain were carved away, forming a V-shaped corridor for the highway. The route now connects the Liuji Special District with Anlong County through 14 interchanges, transforming travel across the region. So yes, China split a mountain in half to build a highway, then connected that highway to the highest bridge on Earth. And as mind-bending as that sounds, it was only possible after engineers solved an even bigger puzzle: where to place the bridge itself. Survey teams analyzed terrain 5 to 10 kilometers upstream and downstream, studying soil stability for the towers, the brutal depth of the canyon walls, and the sheer width of the crossing. When all the constraints were added together, the solution pointed to something extraordinary: a record-breaking bridge. The final design spans 2,890 meters with a main span of 1,420 meters, a structure born not from ambition alone, but necessity. And this is just where the story begins.
Cable-stayed or suspension. A cable-stayed bridge relies on towering pylons with cables fanning downward to support the deck. It's an elegant solution, but for Huajiang, it wasn't the smartest one. For extreme spans in steep, rocky terrain, the proven choice is a steel truss suspension bridge. This design allows massive main cables to be anchored directly into solid bedrock, delivering unmatched stability in mountainous landscapes like Guizhou's. That's the system engineers ultimately chose. Before a single piece of steel was lifted, the entire structure was digitally pre-assembled in a virtual environment, a full rehearsal of construction. Every connection, sequence, and tolerance was tested in advance. The bridge deck itself is made up of 93 steel truss segments built from cords and deck panels. Together, they weigh an astonishing 22,000 tons. For perspective, the Eiffel Tower weighs about 7,300 tons. Huajiang Bridge uses 3 times more steel, and all of it had to be assembled 625 meters above a canyon floor. At that height, precision isn't optional. A dropped component wouldn't just be damaged, it would be destroyed. And while the world's largest crane, Big Carl, can lift incredible loads, so engineers turned to a far more elegant solution: a cable crane system. Think of it as an aerial delivery line. Components are lifted from the canyon edges, travel along overhead cables like a monorail, and are lowered precisely into position. It's one of the few systems capable of operating safely and accurately at this scale and height. Construction began at the center of the span and progressed outward, keeping the structure balanced at all times and avoiding dangerous loads on a single support. Each steel section was locked into place using China's Beidou navigation satellite system, delivering GPS-level precision in 3 dimensions. But this canyon isn't symmetrical, and neither is the bridge. Sloped terrain makes foundation design far more complex. Engineers had already seen what happens when this challenge is underestimated, as nearby projects suffered from cracked roads and unstable slopes. At Huajiang, foundations were carefully tuned to the terrain. The result is 2 towers of different heights. North Tower, 262 meters, South Tower, 205 meters. The anchorage system is equally asymmetrical. Suspension cables descend from the towers and meet the mountainside at different depths and elevations, depending entirely on local geology. In a landscape like this, symmetry simply isn't possible. Then there's the ground itself. Guizhou isn't among the world's most seismically active regions, but earthquakes do occur, and a bridge like this must be ready. Long-span suspension bridges behave like giant pendulums. During seismic events, controlled movement is critical. To manage that, engineers use massive damping devices, similar to shock absorbers. These systems allow the bridge to move during earthquakes or temperature changes without transferring destructive forces into the structure. And then comes one of the most dangerous forces of all: wind. Canyons dramatically amplify wind behavior through the Venturi effect. As air is forced through narrow gaps, its speed increases and pressure drops. Gusts in Huajiang Canyon can reach speeds comparable to an express train. Computer simulations help, but they're not enough. Scaled physical models of the bridge and canyon were tested in wind tunnels, recreating turbulent flow patterns to observe how the structure reacts. But engineers went even further, deploying Doppler LiDAR technology on site. Doppler LiDAR uses laser beams to track moisture particles in the air, measuring frequency shifts to build a real-time, 3-dimensional map of wind movement across the canyon. It allowed engineers to see how wind behaves at different heights and angles before the bridge ever opened. Designing for geology, earthquakes, and wind was only the beginning. Once operational, the bridge must be continuously monitored. The massive suspension cables carry enormous tension, so engineers embedded fiber optic strands directly inside them. This real-time monitoring ensures the bridge's most critical elements remain within safe limits at all times. The cables themselves are made from parallel wire strands, thousands of steel wires bundled and tensioned into a single powerful system. Connecting them high above the canyon requires nerves of steel. Workers access the upper structure via narrow catwalks suspended over open air, moving hundreds of meters above the river below. When you look along the Beipon River today, you can still see where engineering once reached its limits. Huajiang Bridge didn't just push past them.
China's Mountain Mission, a $300 million mega project completed in just 3.5 years. It's a record breaker by any measure, but in China, records rarely stand alone. The country operates the largest high-speed rail network on Earth, has more bridges than any other nation, and leads the world in dam construction. Yet what's happening in Guizhou goes far beyond engineering bragging rights. Since 2012, China has invested hundreds of billions of dollars into infrastructure across its poorest regions. This effort forms a core pillar of the country's war on poverty, a strategy designed to connect isolated areas, stimulate economic growth, and shift revenue generation beyond megacities like Beijing and Shanghai. Guizhou also sits within the broader Belt and Road Initiative, China's global plan to create interconnected economic corridors. Along these routes, infrastructure serves a second purpose, showcasing development, capability, and ambition. And that's where Huajiang Bridge becomes far more than a crossing. More than a bridge. Huajiang was built with the world watching. China is betting that this structure will become a tourism magnet, drawing visitors as powerfully as its engineering impresses. An 800-meter glass elevator carries tourists up one of the bridge's support towers to a 2-story cafe suspended hundreds of meters above the canyon. Beneath the roadway, a glass walkway allows visitors to stare straight down into the void, if they're brave enough. There's even an artificial waterfall cascading hundreds of meters across the structure, turning infrastructure into spectacle. But the ambition doesn't stop there. Huajiang is being positioned as a future extreme sports hub. A bungee jump launches thrill seekers from the world's highest bridge. Plans are underway for professional base jumping events, with discussions of a dedicated extreme sports center in the canyon below. At its core, Huajiang Bridge is a stunning achievement of modern engineering, but it's also a symbol of how infrastructure has evolved, no longer just a way to move people and goods, but a destination in its own right. In places once considered unreachable, China is spending hundreds of millions, sometimes billions, not just to build roads and bridges, but to create experiences that pull the world toward them. In Huajiang, the bridge isn't just crossing the canyon, it is the attraction.